Hello and welcome to the World Wanders podcast, your source for travel stories, travel destinations, and travel philosophy.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Ryan.
And we're your hosts. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Italki.com. For those of you who haven't heard of Italki before, it's a fun, fast, and effective way to learn a language.
Yeah, it's actually a language learning platform, so learners and teachers from all over the world sign up and then link up to learn languages. You can find someone that's within your price range, who specializes in the things you want to learn, or even speaks the local dialect you want to learn. If you're learning Spanish, you can find someone from Argentina if you're going to Buenos Aires. See, I learned that on Italki.
If you want to get started today, we've got a special promo going on, and it's promos.com.
It's promos.italki.com/The
World Wanders. And you get your second lesson free after you sign up for your first. So get started today. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by you, the fans and the listeners of the show. If you would like to support the show, go to www.patreon.com/The World Wanders. And for just a small amount, you can support the show, and a little goes a long way. Thanks in advance for your support.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the World Wanderers podcast. Today on the show, we've got Lisa Mothersille here with us, and Lisa's joining us from Fort Myers, Florida, to talk about her experience as a flight attendant and working in the technology sector, and how she's combined her love of travel with her love of technology.
Yeah, Lisa has a really cool backstory where she was working a corporate job and was intrigued by the idea of traveling more. So she was like, oh, I'll go be a flight attendant. That's the way to travel and get around, explore the world, explore the country. So she went and did that. While she was traveling, though, she was kind of always thinking entrepreneurially about other projects that she'd create. And lately she's created one called the Flight Life app, which allows you to book spontaneous flights. There's one for hotels, and she's got a bunch of other side projects as well.
Yeah. She was super interesting to talk to. She's just got really, really cool background. So we're excited to share this interview with you. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast today, Lisa. It's awesome to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Amanda and Ryan.
And where in the world are you joining us from today?
Currently, I am in Fort Myers, Florida, Southwest Florida.
Amazing. I feel like your weather must be a little bit nicer than ours up in Canada.
Probably. The sun is shining today, very hot, but it's a great day.
Cool.
Yeah, and we were excited to have you on the podcast today to talk about your experience as a flight attendant, because it's like this other side of the travel world that travelers kind of see and interact with, but don't actually get to know like the backstory on.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely, some people called it the secret life of flight attendants, but
it's like a book turned movie idea.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, because, we are certainly trained to be very poised on the airplane, but as you can imagine, most of us, we like to, there's a human side to that profession. It was a very exciting and interesting lifestyle when I was involved in the flight attendant life.
Yeah, and I'm curious what sort of inspired you to become a flight attendant.
Yeah, great question. My aunt, growing up, I had an aunt who was a flight attendant. I think she still is, probably going on 25, maybe even 30 years. I'm not sure, but she's been doing it quite some time. So growing up, I always saw her, traveling the world, going to exciting events, exciting places, and she would bring us back different gifts during her travels, and it always intrigued me. I didn't go into it until after I began my career. I actually started my technology career with Apple, which was a great opportunity as well. And I went on from Apple. I just wanted to travel more, so I went on to become a flight attendant. So that's how I actually became a flight attendant, and my background and other passions in technology is how the two collided, technology and travel.
Cool.
Yes. So when you were working at Apple, Had you had much experience with travel before, or was it this kind of like a dream that you want to do in the future?
Yeah, another great question. No, I always had this entrepreneurial drive in me, but Apple seemed like a great location for me to learn different things in the tech world. I hadn't really had too much experience traveling, not just the world, but even domestically in the U.S. here. I was grew up in North Carolina. I hadn't seen too much of anything. I had family here in Florida, so I didn't really travel much. And I knew there was so much more that I wanted to see after college, meeting different people from different areas of the United States and of the world. I wanted to see more, so that was, a flight attendant was the closest thing I knew to, actually getting out there to see the world. So that's what I did.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear because as somebody who really loves travel, it's something that I've thought about all these different careers. Like, how could I travel full time?
Yeah.
Like, what could I do to like continue traveling the world? And flight attendant seems like a very like obvious answer.
Yeah, it was for me, and I knew my aunt was, so I just went for it. I took a day, I applied for maybe 20 jobs as a flight attendant. I watched YouTube, A Day in the Life of a Flight Attendant, and I just said, I'm going to go for it, and I did, and it was a great experience. It definitely honed in on some of my passions and talents.
So when you imagine, like, I think when you imagine being a flight attendant, it seems kind of like exotic, like you're flying around from place to place, like going all over the world. Like, it seems really, really cool. But what is it like day to day when you get in there? Are you still able to appreciate the places you're going, or does it kind of just become a bit monotonous?
Yeah, it's actually a balance of the two. Because you do feel like you're living this exotic life because all your friends and family, most of them are at home hanging out, and they don't have the luxury to get up and go to a different state every week, or a different country every week. So yeah, from the outside looking in and living that lifestyle, it was definitely exotic. It was an eye opener, and it's very exciting, to say the least. But there is also a side of exhaustion, lack of sleep sometimes, jet lag, change of time zone, especially early on. But you do get used to that lifestyle. Your body gets used to it. Sometimes the destinations, especially early on, you're on call, so you never know where you're going to go. So it's really a balance of the two. So that's why you have to go into it with a very optimistic attitude and just kind of ready to explore and ready to do anything and be spontaneous. And that's how I really developed my travel habits of being more spontaneous, through the just adjusting to the lifestyle of being a flight attendant.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I feel like it's one of those things where you think about it as like, oh, cool, I'm going to go on this vacation. But it's like, the people who are on the plane are kind of going on the vacation and you're actually doing the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got to certainly see our fair share of, various cities. But, not going as a passenger, it definitely would, limit our exploration in various cities, because we may have had a short layover. All we want to do is sleep. So although we were traveling to these places, sometimes we didn't get to explore them. And that was my issue. I didn't get to explore different cities like I wanted to. But the great thing was, on our days off, we still had flight passes. We could go travel standby on our airline and go to various places that maybe we liked during work hours and wanted to go back and visit, or just kind of a getaway. So like I said, it's a balancing act. You have to take the good with the bad, if you will.
Yeah, I guess it's like anything in life where there's sort of like there's two sides to the coin.
Absolutely.
What would you say like the biggest difference between your expectation before you started and then the reality once you had been doing it for a while? What do you think the biggest difference was, or thing you didn't expect?
Well, I think over time I was visiting all these great places and traveling, but I think I wanted more. As I mentioned, I've always had this entrepreneurial drive. So during my travels, I was still teaching myself various things online, starting different online websites, and I had various app ideas and business ideas. So to me, I think it just came to a point where I just needed to expand my horizons a little. I think I felt at that point I had gotten everything I needed to get out of the flight attendant experience, and it was a true passion to travel with people, with loved ones, friends, and family, and also make travel accessible to my nieces and nephews in the upcoming generation. So I really set out to do something larger than just being a flight attendant, to really bringing change towards the travel industry. So that's currently what I'm doing now, is really pushing, innovative travel apps and travel products, and also, as I mentioned to you guys, a startup airline, membership base that's really allowing the average person to travel consistently on a year-round basis and just kind of enjoy that lifestyle that I did as a flight attendant and make it accessible to everyone.
Yeah, so it was when you're a flight attendant, you have the ability to get these flight passes, and you can just make spontaneous decisions to go. That's kind of what inspired you to start Flight Life?
Yeah, absolutely. It inspired me to start the Flight Life app, which is what we're pushing now. We launched a few months ago, and the whole premise of it is to book spontaneous flights. I know on most of the apps I saw, you could sign up for flight alerts, and that's really not the best way. And a lot of people, I don't think, understand how to truly get the best prices on traveling. So we're really trying to just spread the message of spontaneous and flexible travel, because that's the best way, really and truly, to see the world and to enjoy the process of seeing the world. So it's an entire lifestyle that I'm promoting with Flight Life, that was inspired by my stint as a flight attendant.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I think me and Amanda have talked a lot of times about like, oh, how cool would it be to just like go to the airport and like book a flight somewhere random, like just make a decision and like boom, go somewhere.
Exactly.
And we've done a lot of travel, but like we do keep it like fairly unplanned, but yeah, we still never even come close to just like picking somewhere random.
Yeah, and it's a process. And I also, as I mentioned, just listening to you guys' podcast, your road trip is also a process of transportation as well, exploring, especially, I think you guys went from Canada to US, so that sounds pretty amazing. But the Hotel Life app was originally launched for flight attendants because, as I mentioned, we fly for free, so our only cost was hotels. So the Hotel Life app only provides hotels $99 and under. And here recently I went on a road trip, and the new focus for Hotel Life, we're gearing towards road trippers. So I heard you guys mentioning, Priceline and using Airbnb and Couchsurf. So every venture I have now is certainly based around travel, and it's mostly inspired by, as I mentioned, my lifestyle as a flight attendant.
Yeah. So did you think that like technology is influencing people's behavior and pushing, just allowing people to be more spontaneous? Like, is that a trend do you think is happening?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have some great questions here. But it's definitely moving forward. The whole premise of working remotely, digital nomads, or taking a gap year after school. But I think the whole notion of working, at a set location, a 9 to 5, between the corporate constraints, are gradually phasing out, especially among my generation, our generation, and the upcoming generation. So I definitely think this lifestyle is certainly something, as we continue to educate people on the benefits of spontaneous travel, of seeing the world, and not necessarily settling into a career so early or being constrained to a rigid work schedule. But I certainly think it's an upcoming phenomenon, and as we educate more people about it, especially your podcast is an education platform for people to understand travel philosophy and the enrichment and the journey that you all are exploring as well.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because I love the idea of being able to work from anywhere in the world, and it's something I never even considered even 5 years ago, and now it's something that's such a real possibility for us and something we're striving for, and it's something you see all over the world, people just working in cafes in Vietnam or Europe or Central America, and you can really do so much with the way technology is now.
Yeah, so that's really what I'm here for, is to take full advantage of it. There's so many opportunities to just create a, enriching lifestyle for yourself. So that's the journey I'm on, and I see that you all are on the same journey as well. Where are you all located currently?
We're in Canmore, Alberta, which is right near Banff National Park.
Yeah, so kind of if you were comparing to a U.S. state, we kind of be straight above Idaho.
Ah, okay,
Basically.
okay.
Maybe
We're
Montana.
straight above
somewhere.
Montana.
I think maybe.
If we go directly south, you'd hit Glacier National Park.
Yeah.
Nice. So what are the plans today, and what travel apps do you guys use while you're out and about?
That's a good question. In our day-to-day life, I don't know.
Yeah, so I think the biggest travel apps you use probably right now would be Airbnb. Airbnb for staying places. We're doing a bit of couch surfing.
Yeah,
had some
couch
shenanigans
surfing.
Involved with that.
Hostel World was a massive one. Before we got big into Airbnb, and when we were a bit in our younger 20s, Hostel World was so key. I used Hostel World pretty much every day when we were traveling. And then when we were in the US, Uber and Lyft.
And then for flights, we typically use Skyscanner.
Yeah, these are all nice tools. So I do have a question as far as, staying in hotels versus Airbnb. What you guys take on that?
We really like the Airbnb experience because it's a bit more affordable for us. And then it's also you get to stay with somebody who's local to that place. So I feel you get a little bit better recommendations usually than the average hotel. I feel the average hotel tends to send you to I don't know, either sponsored restaurants or restaurants that are geared maybe not towards our demographic.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, so we kind of mix, we basically use either hostels or Airbnb. So we'll use Hostel World to find some hostels, do that for a little while, and then maybe when we feel we need our own space, find an Airbnb. But I really like Airbnb because it's you have there's always just such a wide range in any city you go into. You can find apartments if you want a whole place to yourself, or you can find a cool spot where someone will give you recommendations and you get some social interaction with someone who actually lives there.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm curious so hotel life is still something you're currently pursuing or currently working on, right?
Yeah, it's actually, I just recently, I had 2 interns working on those projects, and they were just so passionate about it. So I actually just joined up with them as partners on these 2 projects. So I'm
cool.
I'm really kind of letting them, they're avid travelers themselves. So I really wanted them to inspire the direction of hotel life and also flight life. Just with my foundation, I found people who are already as passionate as me. So teamwork to me is very important. So I'm teaming up on various projects now, especially travel related, with those just as passionate as myself about travel and just trying to push the message out to the world.
Amazing.
And how does hotel life work? Is it kind of last minute rooms that hotels are trying to fill up, or?
Yeah, currently it's just aggregating various websites to pull only the best hotels in your surrounding area. And also we have a popular cities page. And again, this was originally designed for flight attendants because we could just pick a place on the map and say, okay, I'm going to Bahamas today. So we have a popular page where you can see the various cities that offer the best hotel deals under $99. So you rarely see those deals in the U.S. because hotels are so highly priced, but you can very easily get a 5-star hotel traveling internationally for well under $99. So the premise of it at this time is to find the best areas to go travel to that offer 4-5-star hotels under $99.
So it's more geared towards people who are like, I want to go somewhere and I want to do it in this budget, and then they can come on Hotel Life and they can look at all the different options within sort of like under the $99 per night.
Yes.
Price range.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. I really like that idea where it's like, it kind of goes along with like the spontaneity of flight life as well, where it's like, let's plan a trip and like, here's our budget and let's do it like really spontaneously.
Yeah, we're showing you because travel is affordable in many different places. So, we want to show you the places, on our popular cities page that you can go. And as you guys mentioned, your road trip dollars don't go too far, or you want them to go rather far. So, that's the premise of it, is to make sure when you travel, you're not spending as much, because if you spend less, you travel more.
Yeah, that's very true. And I know, like, having just traveled through the U.S., it's kind of hard to like stay on a pretty tight budget when you're somewhere like the U.S. And I know we had the same thing when you're in Europe. It's just like depends on the cost of the place that you're in. You have to kind of adjust your budget per day.
Absolutely.
So a little bit earlier, you mentioned most people don't know how to get the best prices on tickets. Do you? I know, like, so in my things I've learned are like that it's kind of like a wave, and that it's like more expensive in the future, and then as you get close to the date, it'll get a little bit cheaper, and then as you start to get within like a few weeks of the date, it'll get like more and more expensive. What do you think is like the typical best time range where the flight would be the cheapest?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and that's really what flight life is challenging. Those really those intricate thoughts that go into purchasing a flight, because the process really shouldn't be based around this day or that day. We want to make it as simple and clear cut as possible, where you don't have to track a flight and watch for alerts. This flight is going down $50 in the next 3 days. Look out for it. We want to present the prices to you. This is what the Flight Life app does. We have a top deals page. You select your departure airport. So let's say you're departing out of Toronto and you're a resident of Toronto. You can put your home airport, which is Toronto, and the app displays the various countries you can travel to and the starting point. So typically flying domestically within your country is going to be the cheapest. So that's we have it listed from least expensive to most expensive. So if you select Canada to travel within Canada, we're going to show you the various cities you can travel to from your home airport. And these deals are based on what others in Toronto have already booked. So if someone from Toronto booked a flight to New York for $78 round trip, we're going to show you that price. And that's the cheapest price that's been booked for that specific date. So we're just taking those low-cost flights at the cheapest time that they're booked and presenting it to you. And typically, we can only keep a price there for 14 days. So we're basically just presenting the prices to you at the best time to buy. So you may not consider traveling to New York, but because you see there's a flight there for $78 round trip from a Tuesday to Thursday, hey, let's just go take a spontaneous trip. And you've added that trip to your roster. You've had an experience. You've gotten away from the mundane, everyday life in Toronto, and you come back home and you can really truly experience the spontaneity of travel and life.
Okay. So instead of being like, I want to go to X place and then trying to think about when you can get it the cheapest, it's more like, oh, I want to go somewhere. And then you're like, oh, X, Y, Z places are all cheap, but like place W is extremely cheap. I'll just go there, even though I hadn't thought about it.
Absolutely. You hit it right on the marker, Ryan.
That's okay. That's cool, yeah.
Yeah, that is cool. I like the idea of like, so I'm usually like, okay, let's fly to this place. And I know on bigger trips, it's been more like, okay, let's find like the cheapest place to like fly into in that country or that continent or whatever. But I like the idea of just being like, yeah, like we want to go here for 2 weeks and we want kind of this climate and like, what's going to fit that in that time frame. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, it's really a new concept, and we're certainly in the early stages. So, our user interface, our customer journey, the different prices that we offer, that's all going to enhance as we increase our users and our feedback. So, and just continue to scale and grow. And I'm also dabbling with various travel projects, just to continue to grow my network of travelers and my ventures. So this is one that's near and dear to me, flight life, hotel life, because it really came from my personal experience.
Yes. To hop back to the flight attendant, what are some of or what would you say is like the craziest story you have from that time of your life, or from something that happened on a flight where you were working? This just was like a kind of a unbelievable situation.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I, as a flight attendant, or as passengers, or someone who didn't live the flight attendant lifestyle, some don't understand the extensive security training that goes into our just on our everyday training. We have to stay up on security measures. We have to know the aircraft. We have to know what to expect, and we have to always be on alert. For health issues, we have to learn CPR. We have to learn various aspects of saving someone's life from a variety of different things that could happen while in air. We have to play doctor, psychiatrist, everything. So being prepared for those situations is definitely a great thing. I had an experience on a flight once before where a gentleman, it was actually a very small aircraft, I believe he had a panic attack. He wasn't quite used to being on the plane, so he just really started pulling the seats, trying to take them from the framework, and scratching at the windows, and he was really having a panic attack on the airplane, and he wanted to get off, but obviously we were 10,000 plus feet in the air. And this is when I worked on a smaller aircraft, so I was the only flight attendant there. What happened, luckily his dad unknowingly was a few seats back, so he had to come and hold his son down, and we had to gather about 4 or 5 different men on the plane to just kind of hold him down and try to calm him down from his panic attack. And it probably lasted for about 30 minutes or so. We had to land the aircraft early and call paramedics on the plane. And that's one of my most memorable situations there. But just preparing, always being on alert, preparing for any situations that may happen in that regard, where people could, panic. I've had to comfort people several times who are scared of flying. But it had its exciting journeys. Everything was included: traveling, saving lives. So you have to be prepared for it all.
Yeah, that sounds like a really scary experience.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. He got very physical. I may have gotten actually kicked a few times.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it was pretty intense, but you kind of have to be able to deal with everything. Think on your toes and just remain calm and reserved.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you're a pretty calm person, so I feel like that's a good trait to have in that field of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I've worked in customer service before, and sometimes that can be like a it can be
Absolutely.
kind of frustrating when people like kind of forget that you're actually like a human.
Exactly. Yeah. So just remaining, as you mentioned, remaining calm and trying to get to, I'm a solutions based person. So let's try and get to the solution.
Yeah. And in terms of the places that you got to visit, what was like one of the most memorable places that you got to go to?
Um, I personally, what I can say traveling did to me, I saw a lot of different places and I like to people watch and just absorb different cultures. But the biggest thing for me is appreciating home, going away and traveling to different places, and just coming back home and being able to appreciate, the trees. I never knew how great of a sunrise and sunset, my hometown, North Carolina, had, and just going to other areas and learning of different cultures made me truly appreciate my own a lot more. I visited, every state in the United States. Of course, I've been, London. There's still a lot of international destinations I'd like to visit, but more so my favorite areas to visit were the small towns in the United States. I love Memphis, Tennessee. I just love small areas and just a small, states, the forgotten about states where you can just go and see the simple things in life and the easy living.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. It's nice to hear that because I feel like, you know, people think about like the things that are on TV or in movies and the places that are kind of like on the top 10 destinations list and they're like that's where
Yeah,
they want to go to because they want to, take those
yeah,
photos and experience those things too and I'm definitely in that category as well, but there's something really like beautiful and charming about seeing somewhere that's just a little bit smaller and has sort of like that homey feel to it.
yeah, yeah. Just more authentic. More of an authentic feeling. As you mentioned, you do hear about visit these places, come visit. And, once I visited those places, it was great, seeing the bright lights. And I love, great foods. And every now and then I'll, go go visit a big city just to get that energy and to get that feel. But for the most part, to call my place home, I like it to be calm and, just to be able to reflect and be around family, friends, and real authentic culture.
Yeah, cool. I love that.
So if you were talking to someone, like a young person who was like, oh, I really love to travel. I'm going to be a flight attendant because like this is the way for me to go out and see the world. What would you say to that person? Or are there anything you'd share with them about being a flight attendant as a way to travel and explore?
Absolutely, absolutely. It was definitely a great experience for me. I wouldn't discourage it at all. Um, I actually have a website, Flight Attendant Source. It's in maintenance mode now, but we provide flight attendant jobs and adventures and tours when flight attendants go visit different cities. So yeah, it's certainly a career path that I encourage um, young, old, anyone looking to explore the world and go into a fast-paced, spontaneous travel lifestyle. I would certainly encourage them to explore the flight attendant route.
Okay, cool. I like
Yeah.
how you've taken the things that you've learned in your career and like created websites, created apps, like pursuing like this entrepreneurial side of that to help other people be able to find that stuff a little bit easier. I think that's super cool.
Yeah, it's very fun, to be able to do things that I actually enjoy, that I actually know. So I'm having a blast doing it.
At what point, like while you were a flight attendant, so obviously you saw like the need for, okay, like I could create this website like Flight Attendant Source and provide all these resources for people who are similar to myself and could like use this stuff when they're either in a city on a layover, they've got some time off and they want to travel. But then at what point did you come up with the ideas for like hotel life and flight life?
These were hotel life came during while I was a flight attendant and traveling around everywhere, and I knew that there was something missing. I couldn't easily find a hotel, affordable hotels when I was traveling, so it simply came out of need. And going back to school to get my master's, that's when I was working on that, and I met another team. So I went straight into the flight booking idea. As I mentioned before, sometimes I just go into the city just to get that energy, and I also get inspiration, watching people flying. So I got the idea to go ahead and begin the Flight Life app, and that, it starts off with an idea, and as we go through the development, it all just kind of develops as I gather more information, and I knew what direction I wanted to go with it. So it was more of a gradual process. As the ideas came, I reached out, found the resources, and just began the process of developing my various ideas.
Okay, cool. And what's the actual like behind the scenes process of creating an app?
Finding the right team, designers, developers, reaching out, working out the different costs. But I personally sketched out some of the designs for Flight Life. But it's a collaborative process. You find people who are passionate, developers who are passionate about building mobile apps. You find designers passionate about creating great user experiences and designs and brands. So it's really a team effort. I, lead a team of developers and designers, and also interns who help me along my process. And, hopefully I teach them things along the way too.
And that must be a bit challenging, like as a startup, because you're trying to find people who can do like a really kick-ass job, but then it's also like funding is a little bit low. I'm assuming when you don't have money coming in from the app yet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly something I've had to bootstrap and self-fund myself. So, just being able to find affordable freelancers, but who are also passionate about quality.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's out there. I early on I did get crazy prices, and the 10,000, 15, 20,000 for an app. But once I found, just a median affordable price, and I felt comfortable using the team that I found, then we were ready to move forward. Of course, I put most of the work into it beforehand, sketching out some ideas, finding different designers to work with. So just leading the project and the process, I was able to pull it off.
Amazing. And so that is the app launched yet, or is it still in the
Yeah,
queue?
both of them are flightlifeapp.com, hotellifeapp.com, and we're still fine-tuning both versions, the iOS version, Android version. So it's a continuous process. With as I mentioned, I just brought in new partners, who are former interns. So we're about to take it to another gear, get our content marketing, social media marketing, and spearhead that movement. And just continue to work effortlessly on spreading the message.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, it's cool hearing you how like whenever it seems like when you see an issue like for your job, for example, as like a flight attendant, you're like, oh, it'd be cool if this existed, but instead of just like leaving it there, like you're like, oh, let's see if I can make that. Like I'll throw that
Yeah.
out there, like let's see what happens. What do you think it is about you? Is it something you learned that kind of gave you that like disposition to like build the things you want in the world, or is it like a natural thing? How did you come to think in that more entrepreneurial way?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, firstly, I think the foundation came from my parents. Both of them were entrepreneurs, so just growing up, I could pick up the phone, call my mom, have lunch with her anytime, or she just had a free schedule because I saw that she was her own, she owned her own business. She was her own boss. About her. And I always knew that it was something I wanted to do. I wanted to own my own business. I wanted to solve real problems in the world. And just working for Apple as well. I think that's what really honed it. This is around the time Steve Jobs was still living, and I was just inspired by the products that he created. Apple, Mac, iPhone, and I'm an avid user of his products well, and just his innovative process of solving problems that you see in the world and just having the tenacity to go out and do it, because if you have an idea, the only way to see it through is to actually get started.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love that.
But that's one of the things we've noticed, kind of as we've gotten older and transitioned, like maybe traveling a little bit less, is that a lot of the things we loved about traveling, like being really self-directed, having a bit of a sense of adventure, getting to meet new people and go new places, like a lot of those, the core aspects of that, and the things we enjoyed about that can be replicated by just kind of being an entrepreneur in a way. Like you still have the sense of self-direction, it's still an adventure, and all those things. So it's something we've kind of tried to promote that idea on the podcast as well, of just
Of going against the norm.
Yeah, definitely. Like following your own path and doing what you're passionate about, as opposed to like, I guess, what is the quote unquote like right thing to do. And actually, a question for you is, what have sort of been like the responses from your friends and family as you've like delved into your entrepreneurial endeavors?
Wow. My family is always supportive of me. And that's important to have around, is a great support system, people to encourage you to continue on your path, because it is a very rocky path. As you mentioned, going against the norm, traveling instead of, staying home at one place. Some people don't understand it, but those that do will be the fuel to, continue encouraging you to, as you mentioned, Amanda, following your own path. Mm-hmm. So that's really what it is. Have people, my family understands that I'm going to follow my own path, and they also do the same. They follow their own path, and I encourage them to do that as well. So I have a great support system. I love my family, my friends. So I'm truly blessed in that area.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear, because we've talked to some people where, you ask that question, they're like, well, like a lot of people think we're crazy.
Yeah. Well, luckily, all my family is crazy, so.
Yeah.
How about you guys? How's the family?
It's been like, I think we've both gotten support, but it kind of both came at that time where it's like we just made decisions and we're like, we're doing this, and so you can either support this or you can't. It doesn't really matter. And then so support has followed with that, but it probably wasn't encouraged.
I think there was some confusion. Like, I think so the first time we traveled, it was very like, okay, you finished university and you're taking this like big trip before you like jump into like adult life. And then we came back and like kind of did like the typical adult life, like got corporate jobs and stuff. And then the second time we went traveling, we're like, yeah, we're selling all our stuff and quitting our corporate jobs and going to South America. And mm-hmm. both of our parents were sort of like, but you already did this. Like, you don't get to do it again. Like, what? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then we came back and like completely changed our lives. And I think people were a little bit like, okay, like what happened in South America? Like, but now it's been.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, but now it's been a couple of years, and I think that people now just kind of like encourage the crazy, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole world is going to be crazy soon. We're just we're just spearheading that movement. So I'll be happy to lay the bricks for the next generation.
Yeah, Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I really agree with that as well, where it's um, like remote work and freelance work is now like an option for people that people are choosing. But I think that in a lot of ways, that lifestyle is going to kind of be pushed on a lot of people. Or maybe not pushed, but like where you're looking for a job and the only jobs you can get are in other cities, and then so you start working remotely without even thinking about it. Or where
Exactly.
companies, like the advantage of a gigantic company is kind of diminishing with technology. So there's going to be more opportunities to freelance and maybe less opportunities to just have a long career at one spot. So
Exactly,
the
and
life.
it's makes happier employees, and I think in more creative work. I'm actually looking to begin with a startup, a travel startup actually, and if we can agree on working remotely, then So I think companies will benefit from that as well, being able to open up to having remote talent and remote employees because it's a better work life balance, and I think they'll get more productivity from employees. So that's especially the businesses and ventures that I take on. I want to make sure I create a virtual environment of remote workers, and I just think it's more enriching for career development and just overall life.
Yeah. And so for you, as you like Flight Life app and Hotel Life app and stuff grow, do you see yourself working from like international destinations in the world or?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, most definitely. I'm gonna get out there and travel more internationally. Right now, a lot of my efforts are domestically, but once I get a solid foundation on this, I'm gonna start spreading out, doing more international travel myself, and I'm sure I'll come up with a few ideas and businesses and thoughts, and just from expanding my own travel and my own. Um, um, Reach. And my experiences as I get to see more. There's still so many different places in the world that I haven't seen that I want to see, just to inspire more creativity and inspiration. So right now, the sole focus is definitely completing the goals at hand with Flight Life, Hotel Life, Flight Attendant Source, and a few other projects and ventures I have on the table. But you know, looking towards the future is definitely going to be more international traveling, more international ventures, and just continuing to grow. Yeah, yeah. How about you guys? What's the vision, for the next few years of traveling and wandering?
For us, we want to, I guess, kind of the same thing, be working remotely. So, like digital nomads around the world, be making money off of our podcast and like having travel products out there. And then I'm also a yoga teacher. So, teaching yoga around the world and online is something that I'd really love to be doing. And then we both really love to write. So, continuing to write and
Yeah, so we're just really jumping into going remote. So we're going to go either to Central America or Asia, where it's cheap to live and easier for us to support ourselves as entrepreneurs, and just um, continue working on our podcast. That's really the plan.
Yeah, that's great. My roommate for training as a flight attendant, she was a yoga instructor, and she was very intense and very passionate. It was something I always wanted to learn to do. She would twist up and all these different. So I wanted to learn it. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I'll get around to it.
yeah, yeah. It's never too late.
Yeah,
Too.
definitely.
That's good to know.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, Lisa. Where should
Yeah,
where should
yeah.
people go to find out more about you and your projects?
Well, as I mentioned, flightlifeapp.com. Look out for the Android version coming soon. Hotellifeapp.com. I love reviews, feedback. There's different ways you can provide that within the app itself. You can follow me personally on Twitter, Lisa Mothersille. I'm always looking for different collaborations, projects, travel adventures. So, and thank you guys for connecting with me. It's definitely been a pleasure. I love to stay in touch, and continue, of course, tuning into the podcast.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for listening.
All right, guys, enjoy your travels.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
We really hope that you enjoyed that episode of the podcast. If you like the podcast and you want to support us in creating more high quality episodes, you can visit www.patreon.com/theworldwanders. A little goes a long way. Thanks in advance for your support.
Thanks again to this episode's sponsor, Italki.com. If you're interested in learning a language, go to promos.italki.com/theworldwanderers and get your second lesson free. To find more information, relevant links, and photos talked about in this week's episode, check out theworldwanderers.com.
If you have a question, comment, or feedback, send us an email at info@theworldwanderers.com. Join our community on Facebook at The World Wanderers or on Twitter at WorldWanderers1. As always, thanks so much for listening.
Have a great day.
Bye.